Hello and welcome this Thursday to a new video where I'll be creating a wax model for a potential pendant. If you enjoy watching the process of wax sculpting for jewelry, are curious about this topic and like my videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of the video I publish every Thursday. To create this model, I was inspired by the ancient stories of Orpheus and Eurydice. In fact, the model I'll be working on in this video is a reinterpretation of the myth translated into a pendant. But first, let's start with a brief summary of the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, in case you are unfamiliar with it or to refresh your memory. Orpheus, the son of the muse Calliope and the god Apollo, was an extraordinarily skilled musician and poet. He played the lyre so beautifully that his music could enchant men, animals, and even inanimate objects. When Orpheus fell in love with a beautiful nymph, Eurydice, he decided to marry her. But not long after their wedding, a great tragedy struck. Eurydice was fleeing from Aristeus, a shepherd who had fallen in love with her. While running away, the nymph was bitten by a snake and died. As you can imagine, Orpheus was devastated by grief, but despite his suffering, he decided to not give up. He undertook an incredibly difficult and dangerous challenge to bring his beloved Eurydice back to life from the realm of the dead. Orpheus traveled to the underworld, ruled by Hades and his wife Persephone. There he played his lyre, and the mournful and haunting music he produced moved all the souls in the underworld. Not only that, but his music touched the hearts of Hades and Persephone too. Moved by his melody, the rulers allowed Orpheus to bring Eurydice back to life. However, Orpheus could only have her by his side if he followed a specific condition set by Hades. The condition was that, as Orpheus walked back toward the world of the living, he could not look back to check if Eurydice was following him. She would be behind him, but if he turned to look, she would return to the underworld, and he would never have another chance to save her. Happy to have the chance to reunite with his beloved, Orpheus accepted and began the journey back, followed by Eurydice's shadow. But as humans are often weak and filled with doubts, the closer Orpheus got to the exit, the more he worried that Eurydice might not be behind him after all. Just as he reached the threshold of the underworld, where the light of the living illuminated the path, Orpheus turned around, just for a brief moment. But that moment was enough to break the condition imposed by Hades. He saw his beloved Eurydice being pulled back into the embrace of death. And so, Orpheus lost her forever. Completely heartbroken by the loss of Eurydice, Orpheus wandered the earth, refusing to love anyone else ever again. This is the story of Orpheus and his beloved Eurydice. Which inspired the creation of this model. The model I designed has both a front and a back. The front side depicts a lyre being played by a hand, representing Orpheus. When you flip the pendant, you'll find Eurydice's face on the back. Symbolizing the moment they ascend from the underworld. To create this pendant, I had to craft multiple parts. Five in total. The concave shield serves as the base. A decorative leaf pattern will be placed behind the lyre and the hand. And the final piece will feature the nymph's face. Since there are so many parts to make, the first step is to prepare the wax blocks from which I'll carve the individual elements. In this case, I reused some pieces left over from older projects, so I only had to cut one piece from a larger wax block. Once all the pieces were ready, I glued the paper template on top to serve two purposes. First, to help me carve the general shape of each subject, like the lyre, the hand or the face. Second, to trace the details, which I refine with a burin after removing the paper. This transfers the design onto the wax, so I can start sculpting the final shapes. Creating the concave shield that holds all the elements took a lot of time. I first cut out a circular shape from the wax and removed the material from the outside with a file. Then I used a sharp chisel to achieve a precise shape, and finally I refined the inner part with a rotary tool and a spatula. I also had to create a second convex shield. From which I sculpted the leaf decoration. This background will hold the lyre and the hand. I didn't want to sculpt Orpheus' face on the front because what distinguishes him the most is his skill with the lyre. So I opted to depict the lyre and the hand playing it. To create the lyre, I carefully removed excess material to reveal the instrument shapes. I used a saw, then a file, and finally small chisels, spatulas and burins. Once I was happy with each element, I moved on to the next to prepare everything for the final assembly. If you are enjoying the video, please give it a like, it helps me a lot. Thank you! One of the parts I particularly enjoyed creating was Orpheus' hand playing the lyre. I used my own hand as a reference. Often observing its curves and shapes to capture them as accurately as possible in the sculpture. I really enjoyed this part of the process. After finishing the hand, I moved on to sculpting Eurydice's face. I first created a carved shield that would fit the back of the main shield. I began by hollowing out the wax sheet to fit it against the base. Then I cut a circular shape and filed the outer part to make it convex. When the base shape was ready, I glued the template of Eurydice's face onto it and started carving. After cutting out the shape, I transferred the design with a pointed tool and refined it with a burin. Then I began sculpting the face and its detail, the eyes, mouth and hair. For the nose and the mouth, I also added a bit of wax to achieve better shapes. After completing Eurydice's part, I added a decoration to the back of the main shield. To resemble the stones of an old wall. With all the parts completed, it was time to assemble them into the final model. Using a soldering tip, I fused the pieces together with some melted wax, making them a single piece. I'm happy how the project turned out. My favorite part is definitely the front, with the lyre and the hand. I find it truly captivating. However, one thing I learned from this project is to make the individual parts thinner. While the pieces are beautiful, they ended up being a bit too thick and bulky. So, next time I'll aim to make the elements more slender and delicate. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to check out my others video too. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week with the next video.